Hi Year 4, we're on the last chapter today, chapter 7, and it's called And Did They All Live Happily Ever After? Shall we find out how this story ends? I hope it's a happy ending, do you? Here we go then. My dad's crazy. He's an absolute zingbat. You'll never guess what happened today. Lancelot and his princess got married. Yay! They didn't do it in secret, so Lancelot didn't have to steal my granny away. They got married in our back garden, you know, in front of Mum and Dad and Mr. and Mrs. Tugg and all our friends. It was brilliant. Mum cried, Mrs. Tugg went all wobbly and wet buckets, and we ended up bouncing on the bouncy castle. Oh yes, I forgot to tell you about the bouncy castle. That was Dad's idea. He gets these brainstorms sometimes. You may remember I told you that yesterday everybody had gone all moody and silent. When we went to bed, Dad was still downstairs in the armchair, silently staring at nothing in particular. But when we got up this morning, Dad was nowhere to be found, and there was a note pinned to the armchair. Gone to find a castle. Love, Dad. P.S. Tell my mother the dragons are dead. What's he on about now? Asked Mum. But I hadn't got a clue. Later on, there was a knock at the door, and outside were two men with something that looked suspiciously like a dead hot air balloon. "'Excuse us," they said, and pulled the dead thing through the back garden. A moment later, they started up a little portable compressor that began pumping air into the dead balloon. Mum and I watched from the kitchen window. "Oh, it's another dinosaur," sighed Mum. "This must be your father's work." "I don't think it's a dinosaur," I ventured. "It looks more like..." "A castle," muttered Mum. "It's a castle. Why have we got an inflatable castle in our back garden?" "Because when a princess marries a brave knight, they always get married in a castle." Mum spun round and there was Dad grinning from ear to ear and looking just a wee bit sheepish. "What's going on?" cried Mum. "What is all this?" Yeah, there's the bouncy castle. Can you see the dinosaur in the background as well? Dad waved his hands dismissively. "I got thinking last night. I thought for ages. I thought about Lancelot and how he saved the balloon. Saved me too, for that matter. He's a good chap, even if he does look a bit different. And I thought about my mother and how happy she'd been with Lancelot and how sad her voice sounded when the balloon was carrying her away from him. And I remembered the look she gave me when we got back yesterday. I didn't like it much. Then I wondered why they shouldn't marry. And well, what?" prompted Mum. I decided I'd been a bit stupid. "A bit stupid?" Mum prompted again. "All right, a lot stupid. Anyhow, I've decided to put things right. So, the vicar is coming at 12 o'clock and Granny and Lancelot can get married in a castle." "Dad, it's a bouncy castle," I pointed out. "I know, Nicholas, but I couldn't get a real one. This is the best I could do." Mum ran over and flung both arms round his neck. "It's wonderful, Ronald," she murmured. "It's so romantic, married in a bouncy castle." Then she began kissing him, so I made myself scarce. Lancelot and Granny were overcome when they realised what was going on. Mum got out her old wedding dress and it fitted Granny quite well. Lancelot wore his best motorbike leathers. Mrs. Tugg picked off the studs from the back of his jacket and then sewed them back on so they said "just married." The vicar arrived and half an hour later Granny and Lancelot were married. Actually, the ceremony was a bit weird because Granny's hearing went halfway through the service. The vicar had just got to the bit where he said, "Do you take this man to be your lawful wedded husband?" when Granny interrupted. "Awful shredded hat stand? What are you going on about, you strange man?" "Just say I do," hissed Dad. "But he asked me about a hat stand, Ron. We haven't got one, have we?" Granny turned to the vicar and smiled politely. "We haven't got a hat stand," she explained, "but you're welcome to put your hat on the table if you wish." Now it was the vicar's turn to look perplexed, and he repeated his question in desperation. Granny lost patience. "Look, I've already told you to put your hat on the table. If you don't mind, I'm trying to get married. Do please get on with it." It was Lancelot who came to the rescue, bending down and whispering very loudly in Granny's ear. "Of course I'll take you for my husband," Granny said. "That's why we're here. What do you take me for?" "Then I pronounce you man and wife," said the vicar with evident relief. "You may kiss the bride." "What bird?" demanded Granny. "Why should I want to kiss her?" "Ooh!" Lancelot had stopped her from saying any more by crushing her in his arms and giving her a whopping great kiss. A real smackaroo. Dad got out his karaoke machine, of course, and began singing along with all his favourite tunes, and we ended up dancing, well, bouncing really, all over the bouncy castle. Me, Mum, Mrs. Green Jelly, Granny, Lancelot, the vicar, Dad, Mr. Tug. It was great! Lancelot decided to let all his pigeons go by way of celebration, and the pigeons celebrated in the way they knew best, flying around very fast and dive-bombing Mr. Tug's new car. Splop! Granny and Lancelot had decided to go and live at Lancelot's house. It's not that far away, so we'll still see lots of them. She looked so happy today. She stood arm in arm with her new husband, gazing up into his eyes. Then she noticed me watching, and she smiled. "He really is just like Brit Pad," she giggled, and hugged him even closer. And there they are, happily married, with me standing really happy next to them. What a brilliant ending. I love happy endings. They're the best endings, aren't they? I hope you enjoyed that story of Jeremy Strong and my granny's great escape. So she didn't have to escape in the end. Dad saw his senses and let them get married in the garden on a bouncy castle. I love it. I'm going to put out a vote for you over the next day or so to see what book you want to read next. There's a selection of books again, and I'll go with your vote. So get voting on Class Dojo, and I'll read the next book as a result of your vote. Enjoy the rest of your day. Hope it's all going well, and enjoy the sunny weather, but stay safe. And I'll see you again for the next book, whatever that might be. Take care, Year 4. Bye now.